to Object Lesson 3, and I'm in a different place today because we're thinking about the actual nativity play. And I've got in front of me a version of a manger, although realistically, what's behind me is more likely what Jesus was laid in, a feed trough that was cleared out for the baby to go in. And I've been thinking about the nativity. I was never in it. I was never brave enough to have a speaking part. And most parents would be most desperate for their child to play Joseph or Mary, and they'd sit with the manger and a little doll in it, and you'd be anxious for the entire performance that the doll wasn't going to be picked out of the manger. But the manger's key, isn't it? And I saw a play years ago where a photographer was in the church and he was pretending to take a picture of Joseph and Mary and the baby Jesus, and he thought the photo was boring, so he started bringing in other things. He thought a couple of donkeys would be good and maybe get some sheep in, and then he added the wise men and the shepherds, and he put an angel in the background. He still didn't think this photograph was suitable, so he added Father Christmas and a snowman and some dancing penguins, and the stage in church where this was taking place was full of all these things. And at the last minute, the photographer said, "We're almost there, but can you get rid of that dirty old box at the front?" And they pushed the manger out of the picture. And then they sang, "Away with the manger, no room for the bed." And for a lot of people this Christmas has all the trimmings, but they don't have an acknowledgement of the manger. And it's at the very heart of the story. Why do I think that? Well, because firstly, Luke mentions the manger 3 times, and I'm going to read those to you. And secondly, because the manger speaks of how Jesus came to serve us. So Luke says, "She gave birth to her firstborn, a son. She wrapped him in cloths and placed him in a manger because there was no guest room available. But the angel said to them," this is the shepherds, "Do not be afraid. I bring you good news that will cause great joy for all people. Today in the town of David, a Saviour has been born to you. He is the Messiah, the Lord. This will be a sign to you. You will find a baby wrapped in cloths and lying in a manger." And then in verse 16, "So they hurried off, and sure enough, they found Mary and Joseph and the baby who was lying in the manger." And that manger speaks of humility. Jesus, the King of Kings, born in the most humbling of circumstances. No room anywhere, no guest room. He was born and then placed into a feed trough. And you imagine that scene as well when the Magi come. There's animals in there, it smells of animals, it's animal mud, and they've come because the Saviour of the world, the Messiah, is there, and he's in this filthy old manger. So my word for today is humility. Jesus made it clear he came to serve, not to be served. And the Christmas story is nothing without this manger. It's absolutely nothing, because this talks of Jesus coming, the light of the world that we've talked about, come to save us, but come as a humble king. And all I'm going to say this week for your activity is, can you think of ways to be humble and to serve others? I was going to suggest things like, if you've got a lot of colleagues who don't ever wash their dishes up, maybe every day this week you tidy up after them all and wash their dishes and put them away. Or maybe you go shopping and buy a few treats for a neighbour and just pop round and serve them with a bit of Christmas cake and some cheese and biscuits. But all of this week, think about the humility of the servant king who came for us. And I've got a song, and I really couldn't decide what to pick, and this song kept coming back to me. And you'll know it really well. It's the Graham Kendrick song, "Meekness and Majesty." But the words really speak of this wonderful tension between God and the humble beginning. Meekness and majesty, manhood and deity. So he was both man and God. The imperfect harmony, the man who is God, Lord of eternity, dwells in humanity, kneels in humility and washes our feet. And that's my message for this week's object lesson, is whenever you see the manger, whenever you get a Christmas card with the nativity scene on, remember the humility with which Christ came and with which he served all of us. and try to demonstrate that in your life. There will be a link to a version of Meekness and Majesty, which I hope you'll find really refreshing, because it's from recent years. But this week, you're thinking of humility.